Hey, it's Kevin DeWitt here. Welcome to another plugin knowledge session. In this session, we're going to check out a brand new plugin from Waves called the CLA MixHub. So this plugin here, absolutely brand new. Haven't even tried it yet. Got the demo version. It's brand new at NAMM 2019. And it's a concept that's supposed to make you feel like you're mixing on a full mixing desk, the same as CLA does, and it's supposed to improve your workflow, get you faster, get you moving very fast, and getting your mixes done at speeds like CLA. So it's a concept that at the individual plugin level, it's like SSL console board channels, very similar to some other ones that I've done in the past. With a few variances here and there. And obviously it's supposed to have the signature sound of his mixing desk, his hardware-based one. And it then takes it to another level where it groups and shows you views of 8 sections or 8 tracks at a time and various bits and pieces like that, which means that you can mix a lot faster. So it's going to be interesting to see how that performs and how you actually set that up. So let's get into it and check it out. All right, so here we go with the CLA MixHub. This is the first instance of a plugin that's been loaded actually on the mix bus, and this is what it looks like when you first open it. I'm guessing this is actually like the channel view because there's various views to look at in this regard. So it's got your usual type features that you'd expect on an SSL console mixing desk emulation. We've got a track name here. Now, when we get to the views of the bucket, etc., this can be important. So it'll naturally pull the name from your actual track, and they suggest that you keep the names fairly short because they are going to get truncated if they're too long, and they could come up with some very cryptic terms. Now, luckily, I've got a mix here that I already renamed some things here because I'm playing with some hardware at the moment that also has the same level of restrictions that it wants short names. So I've already made some names that I can understand that are in a short form. All right, so what you've got, first off, is you've got your line input here or mic level. You've got an analog button, noise, phase, and a minus 20 dB pad for bringing stuff in. So as I said, we're emulating a console here. So normally you're going to have some sort of input gain control. And if you're running mics, a mic level. You got a filter section here. Here is our high pass or low cut. As you can see, it's obviously a filter and turns on when we move the dial up or down. And here is our low pass filter or high cut. We then get our EQ section here, pretty much identical to any other SSL option here. So we've got our high frequency, which is a shelf by default. You've got a gain control, positive, negative, and you've got your kilohertz range there. So obviously this is the high. If you push this button in, it turns it into a bell shape. So instead of a shelf. Same applies with the low frequency here, but obviously in this regard, we're talking about the low side of things. So, very low frequencies. It's your shelf by default and a bell with the press of a button. We then got some low mid frequencies and high mid frequencies. So these all operate exactly the same, except they just work in a different range of frequencies. So you have your dB increase and decrease. You have your frequency range. So as you can see, 0.2 kilohertz, so 200 hertz, up to 2.5 kilohertz. And then you've got a Q, so it just defaults in the middle here. So this is the bandwidth, the width of the actual bell shape, because these two middle ones are bell shape. And if you go this way, it becomes more narrower. And the little pictures here basically describe what is happening. And you can make it wider going that way. As I said, the high mid frequency here is exactly the same. It's just the difference is the frequency range. So now we've got 0.6 kilohertz, 600 kilohertz up to 7K. So with all of the 4 sections here, you cover the breadth of frequency ranges that you will need. We then have a compressor section here and a gate section and some other advanced features here. So the compressor, again, it works like any other SSL compressor in that you have a ratio control, you have a threshold, you have a release, and then your attack is basically just a little switch that you can go from a normal attack to a fast attack, right? So just predefined settings there. You don't have a variable attack setting. And in this one here, you've got a type. So we've got his standard desk, his mixing console desk type, or you can switch to his Bluey type, which is his external compressor that sits in a rack somewhere else in his room. So you can get 2 different sounds for your compressor. And we've got a gate here. Again, if you know how to use a gate, it's all pretty simple here. You've got a range to determine how far and how heavy that gate works, a threshold when the gate will kick in, the attack of the gate, the release of the gate, and the hold of the gate. And then we have a type. We can switch between gate, expand, or duck. We have a comp mix here, which is going to allow you to do some parallel compression, and you can either have it fully compressed, 100% wet, or you can blend some in. You can over compress and then just blend a little bit in, start to do some parallel compression tricks there. You could turn on an external sidechain. So if we set up an external sidechain on the plugin here, we could actually activate that to allow the compressor to use this sidechain functionality to determine when it compresses and when it doesn't. But at the moment, it can't turn it on because I don't have it set up. We've also got this sidechain EQ here, and that allows the EQ to operate on the sidechain. Okay, so when it comes to the sidechain components here, you'll notice that there's some extra features up the top here. So I'll just run through a couple of these first, just so we understand it. So we've obviously got on-off, so we can turn modules on and off. And depending on whether we're using stereo, mono, etc., we can set it to stereo, duo, or mid-side mode for any of these modules. But what we can also do is we have this little button here and we can expand it, and you'll see that it expands to 2 inputs here because we're running this plugin in stereo. So we can link it, we can unlink it, and as I said, we can adjust each setting. We've got our left and right. We can change each setting we want there. So at the moment, I've got it linked. If I click that, we can unlink it. That works for all the components there. We can shrink it back down with that. And again, we can expand this and unlink it and start adjusting settings there. Now, if we had it linked, then we can just make adjustments. But if you've got it linked, you can just obviously keep it in the small mode because we don't need to see that extra level there. Now with the compressor here, the dynamics is a little bit different because you'll see as we expand that, we see a whole new EQ section here. And this is to do with the sidechain, as it says here. So we can configure quite a few sidechaining options here. So we can sidechain to the gate, to the compressor. We can EQ to the gate, EQ to the compressor. We can filter and EQ to the dynamics. And that then applies to these settings here, which is independent to your actual EQ section over here. So you can see we can also switch between each of them in expanded mode. So you can see we've got a lot of advanced options here with the sidechain, and again, we have left and right. And we can even unlink the compressors and actually do different compression on each side of the mix there. And then we've got our output section here in a couple of meters, so we can meter the input, the output, or the gain reduction. Okay, so on the output section here, we've got this mono control. So in standard, that's our full stereo width. We can wind it down to mono if we wanted to, or we can go reverse full stereo width. So basically still full stereo, just in total reverse left and right compared to the other side. We can turn on extra width and allow us to get an even wider mix. So it'll create some stereo enhancing expansion there. And if we set the filter, it'll do a sort of a filter around 200 hertz, but only on the width control. So what it'll do is anything below 200, it'll keep fairly centered, even though you're doing this width here, and it will widen out things above 200 hertz. We can then change the panning if we so choose to. We've got an output control here. We can unlink them and adjust them individually or link them together as one. And we can also select what our meters are looking at over here. So let's just have a bit of a play with this on the mix bus itself. So a couple of things I didn't mention on here. So with the line input, that's obviously basically just our gain control for our track. There on the input, we can adjust that. We also have this mic, which we can add extra gain and start getting some distortion or some harmonic content in there to get a bit of crunch or something there. And we have this noise and analog. So noise adds a little bit of tiny layer of noise to it that I guess is detected in the actual hardware unit itself. So that can add a little bit of character, but then some people obviously don't like to induce some noise, so you can turn that off. And the analog one is where you're adding the analog harmonic content, which is obviously generally what you would be going for in a plugin like this to get that console hardware analog emulation embedded into your track. But if you prefer to have a pristine clean track, you can turn that off as well. Let's see if we hear a difference with those. It's probably a very subtle setting, I would imagine. Yeah, very subtle there. All right, so we'll just whip through some of these other settings because, as I said, if you've seen any demonstrations of an SSL plugin or console, then you'll know what most of this does. So you'll see this solo button here actually it's sort of like an automatic solo. So as soon as you try to dial in one of these controls here, it solos around this range so that you can hear what the impact of this cue is and all the settings there. So it's a really nice feature to allow you to hear this section and dial in this cue, because most other SSL plugins, it's a bit of a guess to what actual impact this is doing, because you hear it through the entire EQ. To hear it focus like that is quite a very nifty and handy little feature. All right, I'll show you the gate section on another track in a moment, because obviously it's not going to work on the mix bus. It's not really something you would use on a mix bus. Well, I wouldn't anyway. And the sidechain features here. I guess we could quickly go in with the compressor. All right, and let's just check out this section here. Yeah, so that extra wide is a very extreme effect there. So I think you would want to use that on very particular items and not everything. All right, so let's check this out on a kick drum now. So this version here, I have it in the mono version. And as you can see, doing the expand here reduces what you have on offer. It looks a lot simpler because we are only looking at a single instance instead of stereo. We lose a lot of features over here on the output as well because we don't have any stereo width or anything like that. So it's a lot simpler to look at. But other than that, everything is pretty much the same. So we've got a kick. And as you can see, you can really destroy an instrument with a gate. But obviously you can use it here to get rid of some of the bleed, some of the noise that's in the background that you don't want, isolate the kick drum out, that sort of thing there. I'm not a big one for gates, I don't use them that often. On the rare occasions, I like to edit my tracks a bit more than I use a gate for. So that's a gate anyway. All right, so how the concept of this plugin works in regards to probably what everybody's here to look at, not this part, is the views and everything. So the first thing you need to do is ignore all of these other plugins at the top here because this is an existing mix. You need to place, first off, the CLA MixHub on every single track that you want to be involved in this mix view, in the mixing process, whatever else. Now, if you're emulating a console, I would imagine that you would put it on pretty much every track. The only time you might not is in the case of, say, the snare here, where I've got 3 snares. I may not put it on each snare. I may just put it on the bus because I'm feeding all 3 to one bus just to save on a little resources. So you need to be aware of that. So if you're going to use this to its full impact, you need to have a system that's going to be capable of loading this plugin on every single track. All right, because you are pretending to be running a mixing desk where every single piece of audio is sitting on your mixing desk somewhere along the lines. Now, what this might do for you is that it can improve your workflow as well, because you need to start to control things. Because if you have 100 tracks and you put this CLA MixHub on 100 tracks, more than likely your computer is going to ground to a halt and is going to die. So you need to be a little bit more conservative, and it's realistic because you are running it like it's an analog a console. Not many people would have a 100-track physical console. You would need a huge room and a massive power bill. So it imposes a few limits on you in that regard. So in one way it can be good, but in another way it can be an annoying as well, because you have to control yourself. So you might want to control yourself to say, I need to get this down to 24 tracks because that's the way I want to operate. And while it might seem a bit tedious to set this up first off, if you create this as a template and you load this template every time you start a new session and you just put the new audio files into that template, then it'll be a very quick and easy setup because you'll have all your tracks lined out, bass, drums, everything else all pre-set up already with the CLA MixHub on them. So you could just fire up a new template, load the new tracks in, make a few adjustments here and there, obviously, because not every song's got the same tracks, but you'll tweak it. But consistently, a lot of the mixes are going to have very consistent tracks. You're going to have a lot of the same things. You're just going to tweak things here and there. So I would definitely recommend creating a template if you are going to use this. All right, so I'm just going to open one of these plugin tracks here. And this is obviously, as I said, channel view. So I just opened the kick bus one. And I'm just going to flick over to bucket view. All right. And by default, we've got nothing in here right now. So what I'm going to do, and before I do that, we can switch back to channel view or bucket view. We've got a few options here, but we've got nothing in our buckets to start with. So first step we're going to do is we're going to assign. So first off, we can say, all right, I'm going to assign the bass. Okay, and we've got all these different buckets here. Okay, so we can assign any tracks into any of these buckets. So you can see here that this first bucket, I went in and I clicked assign and I clicked on bass. Then I clicked on this button and that's it there. I could go across to number 2 here, go assign, and I go, okay, I'm going to put all my guitars into there. So now I've got my guitars in here. I go across to this bucket, I'm going to go assign, and I'm going to put my drums in here. Now I have more tracks than this, but I haven't loaded the plugin on every track. So I just wanted to put it on a few tracks to do an example here. And then I'll come across the 4, and this time here, I'm going to put all of these buses in. And then what I could do is label them. So I can say these are my bass. This is my guitar tracks. And this is my drums and my buses. Something like that. And you've got 8 buckets. So that is the reason for that's the reason the plugin states that it has 64 track restriction. Now, if I was to say, I could override these and I could place them all in. And as you can see, if I try to go too far, it says, sorry, your bucket's full. So you are limited to these 8 buckets. So let's just go back and set it up the way I had it before. Just so it is nice. And there we go. All right. And then in each of these 8 here, we have these views. So we've got input, EQ, dynamics, and output. So the beauty of this workflow is that we can be coming along to our guitars here, and we could be playing our track. Sorry, we're playing our track. And we can suddenly start changing all of our guitars. We can also rearrange if we want to. And then go EQ. So you've got a nice view here to speed up your workflow because you can start adjusting things instead of the other way of doing it, like having to come in here and go, okay, I'm going to work on the, sorry if I go to channel view. So coming in here and working on the kick. All right, I'm going to play with the EQ on the kick. Now I'm going to go and open the plugin over here on the snare, and I'm going to adjust that as well. And now I want to make a change to the bass, so I'm going to come over here and do that one as well. But which can be a little bit cumbersome and annoying. So that's the beauty of this. I can come into here in the drums and I can say, okay, I'm going to now start mix my drums. So I'm going to start doing changes here on each of these drums, and I'm starting to work at a faster pace because I'm EQing the whole lot, and I'm doing it while I'm playing it. Now, you can see I'm making some silly moves, and that's not the point of this exercise. The point was to show it here. We can then go across our dynamics, and again, we can start playing with our compressors on each of our tracks. Go to our outputs. That's a bit hot, that's it. We can go across to our buses. We could do the same thing, make some adjustments. We can even expand sections. So if we've got some stereo ones, we can expand them. So you can see how the power of this could be really good in your workflow to speed things up, but obviously it requires a bit of setup. All right, so you need to put a little bit of effort in to set up your buckets and get things arranged, right? But it's not that big a deal. It's not really hard. And as I said, if you create a template and, you can move things around, as I said there. And that was the other thing I forgot to mention in channel view. You can rearrange these these modules as well. So you can put the dynamics before the EQ or after the EQ. There's even a slot here to add extras, and I'm sure there's more that's possibly going to come, or things you can do. When I click on it, there's a couple of things here that come up that I have. But if I click on them, it opens it up like that, and then I can shrink it, and it says it's there. So you don't get a great view, but it is there, and if I expand it, I can open it up. So if you've got other Waves plugins, you might find some extra little features here by being able to add some stuff in this extra slot, and I can actually remove that. So you can see this plugin list here of what you can and can't add. So some little benefits there as well. Now on top of all of that, you've got your standard Wave stuff as well here, that you've got, your undos, a bit of history there. You can, as I said, load some presets here. So if you like CLA's work, he's got some really good presets here. I haven't tried them because I don't generally use presets too much, but you could click on them, see how he sets up his snare or whatever preset you want to load. And, it's good to have a look at them, see what he does, and then adapt them to your setup and your sounds that you're going for. But they are really good to look at what he actually is trying to do and how he's got them set up to see what you should do with your mix or try out with your mix. You can A/B and lots of things like that. You can also assign to a bucket quickly from here while you're in the channel view as well. So if you just want to assign it to a bucket, you can do that, or you can take it out of a bucket. So there you go. There is the CLA MixHub from Waves. What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments. Love to hear your opinions. Do you think it's worth getting? Do you think it's overly complicated, or suit your style and your workflow perfectly, that it's going to adapt to you and you think this is a fantastic idea? Let me know in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, please remember to subscribe to my channel. Check out the other videos I've got, free content on my website, etc. And hopefully it's been helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.